Collette, so nice to have you here. You are ocean number 2
Oh, nice.
that I'm about
Good
to
position.
cross. Thank you so much. I don't know if you're familiar with transatlantic, but we have a philosophy here. We think that everybody's an ocean. And to really get to know someone, you need to cross the ocean. So I can't wait to cross the ocean with the 7 Seas interview.
That's
Welcome.
Right. Thank you. Thank you very much. I'm excited to be here.
Okay, look, I'm going to start with the first question, okay?
Okay.
And it's like, kind of like, weird question, but we'll get there, okay? So the first 3 months of this year, they were extremely, important because there's a fact that it's like maybe a lot of people don't know. It's like 24% increase in pirate attack. Right, so it's like most people think of piracy as something that belonged to the 17th century, but pirates are actually real, and they're a real threat to ships. And piracy is it's actually on the rise. So I'm not talking like web attack. I'm talking about pirates that go on other people's ship
Right.
and they
The real
rack,
ones.
right? So bridging this to advertising industry. What do you reckon is a real threat that we need to be aware of right now?
So that's an interesting question. And I will say, is it okay to have a constant threat, right? So
Of
I
course.
think, in pharmaceutical advertising, not so much in health and wellness, but definitely pharmaceutical advertising, I think the real threat is all of the regulations and the rules that you have to push up against as a creative, right?
Right.
And the reason I say it's a threat is because it can stifle creatives and clients alike. They become fatigued and tired, and the process starts to break down, and the creative starts to look mediocre, a sea of sameness, if you will, right? So I've always seen that in pharma. Health and wellness a little different. The regulations are different. You can have a little more fun there,
Right.
be a little bit more authentic and real. But I would say it's the regulations, and it's constant, right? It's a constant threat. It's
And there is
always
no
there.
way that you can go around regulations.
No,
right?
you can't. And, I've been, working recently in Canada, and it's even more strict, right? So coming from America, you have the restrictions, and I've done launches over in Europe, different kind of restrictions. So, and then especially if you're on a global launch, those restrictions start to stifle the entire creative process. So I think that's a constant threat. Like if we use that analogy
Right.
of the threats and thinking about what does it do to us as creatives, like we don't want to be stifled.
How do you deal with that?
Well, so it's interesting. I've heard people say in the past that you have to actually be more creative in pharmaceutical advertising than you do in any other
Right.
advertising, because you are constantly challenged all the time to break down those walls and break down those barriers. The other thing I do personally is I try to work really closely with the clients to get them to be excited about the work and fight with us, when we're in those med legal reviews and anything else, to stand up for that work. So
I'm going to riff on the P, right?
Okay.
No, listen to me for a moment. Pirates. And then, there's this beautiful definition of Malcolm McLaren. It was the manager of Sex Pistols, at the birth of punk. And he said, the punk was a mindset. To be a punk is a mindset. And he says, to be a punk means to open doors that are not supposed to be open, and to cross lines that are not supposed to be crossed.
Ooh.
Now, I always found this definition fascinating, right? But I think you touch upon a point that is really interesting. It's I think in the pharma case, it's more about to find those doors that are not even there.
Right.
Not even to open doors that are not supposed to open, but to find the door that you didn't know were
Yes.
there.
Well, it's kind of like as a creative, you see that do
Right.
not enter, I'm going in.
Okay.
I'm not going
That's
to wait.
awesome.
I want to go in that door. I want to go in and break it down.
Okay, well, second question.
Okay.
In January 2007, at the age of 14, Michael Perman became the youngest solo sailor to cross the Atlantic. 14 years, this guy. It's crazy. When asked what his secret was, he replied, I got a lot of chocolate. And your calorie intake goes right up because you need it. Now, to cross the advertising ocean, in your case, to go from the lowest ranks, so to speak, to the highest rank. I'm sure it didn't take a lot of chocolates, but give me an ingredient that it took.
Okay. Well, I'm sorry. I'm a huge chocolate fan, but it's not the secret sauce, right? Although it could be.
Right.
For me, and I know, some people say it's all about the work. It's all about the work. I actually take a different approach. I'm a people first kind of approach. I take care of my team, right? So, and I think when you take care of your team, and when I say truly take care of them, they know me as like Coco will be there. She'll help us through it, figure it out. That people first approach actually increases productivity. It increases creativity, innovation. It all will follow there. And I think, the people first approach also is like, I look at it this way, like I'm taking care of my team, who's taking care of our clients, right? So I just believe that creatives need to know that their work is great, that someone's there to help them along the way, because it goes back to that first thing I was just saying, like pharma can be tough, and young ones coming into the business don't necessarily know how to navigate those waters, right? So I think the people first approach it's always worked for me.
So the third question for you, okay? This is like a fact that I read, and it I got really interested into that because I never thought about it. Anyway, there is a way that ship used to bypass Niagara Falls. And it's called the Welland Canal. The first Welland Canal that was built to bypass the Niagara Falls was built in the 1829. After that, 8 docks were built to allow ships to bypass the Niagara Falls. Would be too dangerous for them, of course, right?
Yeah.
Now you are a ship, and you had to bypass something that endanger you. What would you rather avoid in the advertising business?
Okay, so let's see. So I'm on a little ship.
Okay.
And I see a big ship of clients that I think are not so brave, maybe fearful. The reason I would bypass them is because, in the creative industry, fearful clients that are not brave enough to jump into the deep end with their agency to make the work better, are the ones that you kind of want to not work with, ultimately. But I also think, when clients believe in what they're doing, big ideas can lead to big success, and I think that trust has to be there. So if I was on the ocean and I see this ship of fearful clients that don't want to jump in the deep end with their agency, I'm going the other way. I don't want to work with them. That's it.
Fear is such a strange feeling. Sometimes I get really into maybe these are stupid things but into words. Sometimes I don't know, maybe it's a coincidence. The fear and feeling, they all start with the F, and the thing that come from the same root. I don't know. But it's a weird thing because I think I talked to Ocean Number One, Tim, and he was talking about fear in advertising. He was talking about how he overcame some of his biggest fears. And now you also mention fear, and I take it as a sign to Ocean mentioning such an important feeling in the span of a couple of hours. It's in the advertising space.
Yes.
That means that there is something there that
Yes.
it's going on, and so it's super fascinating to me.
Well, actually, it's interesting because it's subjective, right? A lot of the work that we do is subjective. So you put yourself out there, and you're like, what will people think? Right. Clients kind of feel the same way. Plus, they have, dollars associated with that, and they have results that they need to go into. And I heard this quote the other day. I think it's a good one. I think it's good for everyone to have as part of their life. Is everything we want is on the other side of fear.
The other side of fear.
And what I loved about that quote when I saw that recently is, I think about that even with my personal life, right? There's all kinds of things that happen in life, and you become fearful, and you don't take those risks or those challenges. It took me a long time to get over fear and get where I'm going and think about how life is. And even still to this day, there's moments where
You know that
I would
there
like
is
to be on
the
that.
thing that called like exposure theory, where
Yes,
right?
Yes.
They say it's like the more you expose yourself to your fear,
yes,
the stronger you get.
right,
I think that's an interesting theory.
yeah.
Um,
And we're all fearful
right,
of something.
yeah.
I mean,
What I do, I don't do fearful things on purpose. But recently, let me tell you something. What I do, I actually, I have my workout routine. I do every morning, but on purpose, every single morning, I do one exercise that I truly hate. And I do it, and I
That's
do
great.
it, and I keep doing it until that hate turned into love. So there was like an
see
exercise I
that?
used to hate. That was like
now it's your
mountain
favorite.
climbers, where you had to like get down on your knee and like, you know, and shuffle like and then run and play. It's like, it's crazy. I hate it. I hate it so bad.
Not
But
anymore.
for like 6 months, I did it every morning. And like it turned into love.
Yeah.
Anyway, it's so funny. Like these like feelings are like. Anyway, you talk about subjectivity, and it's something that I touch upon on my Transatlantic podcast. Now, there are two types of truth, and this brings me to my fourth question. Two types of truth, like, you know, a personal truth and an objective truth. Now, you work in pharma, and pharma seems to be a space where objective truth are dominant compared to a space of like traditional advertising or just advertising where like, you know, subjective truth dominance. I do think that personal and objective truth are like two people that walk like hand in hand. So now I'm more interested to see how these objective and personal truth in your personal space, in your life, how do they behave? Do they meet in the between? Do they fight? Do they help you in,
they
in
love?
do
Do
your
they hate?
job? Do they love? Do they hate each other?
That's a good question. And I think as humans, we're always fighting with objective truths and personal truths, right? We know, like you're right, pharma, very regulated, lots of objective truths, but personal can come into the love of campaigns that we believe in and that we want to fight for, and that's where the personal truths come in. But in my personal life, you know, I think, you know, one that quickly comes to mind, it's a good question, is, you know, being a mother of a 17-year-old, you have to be objective. You have to help them along the way, and there are rules that you follow, and getting up for school, and that's not always easy. But there's also just things that kids need, and I feel like maybe those objective truths are what guide him, myself. But then there's the personal truths where, you know, you let down your guard, and you know, help to push them for, you know, more emotional feelings and get in touch with themselves. And I think, you know, if I just think of it purely as like there are rules and then there are not rules, and I feel like in my life I'm constant with that as a mom. It's constantly battling each other, right? He's even said, as my son, he was like, you know, can you not be a mom today and be my friend? So I think there's sometimes that battle goes on, but you have to be objective when there are certain things that are needed. And
So
then-
interesting, because like roles, like, you know, I'm a father, I have 2 little girls, and but sometimes I found myself like so caught up with the role of a father, right? Like you acting and you say, should I act this way because I'm a father? Because the objective truth is telling me that how a father acts, or should act this other way, it's less of a father. So I think like personal truth and objective truth, like they are these two crazy, like, to me, they are like two balls in a pinball machine, man. It's like they are constantly eating each other, like, you know, and it's sometimes some days I don't even know like where they are. Like, you know, so anyway.
Yes.
Fifth question.
Okay, let's do
The
it.
5 oceans, the Pacific, Atlantic, Indian, Southern, and Arctic, are all connected and form an enormous mass of water. I like to think that it's Mother Nature telling us that we must stay connected, no matter how big we are. Now, you are the Global Chief Credit Officer of Dentsu Health.
Yes.
That's a big job.
Yes.
And Dentsu is huge.
Yes, it is a very big company.
So no matter how big you are, you must stay connected. It certainly applies to you. What is the hardest challenge of a global CCO of such like massive company?
To stay connected?
Yeah. How do you do that?
Actually, another good question. Well, okay, so, staying connected is easier than
Right.
it's ever been before. That's the good news, right?
Okay.
The bad news, it's easy to stay connected.
Right.
And what I mean by that is like, I think for me, the biggest challenge would be that, all this new technology that happened at the top of 2020, whether you're on Teams or, Google Meet,
Right.
FaceTime even, we are constantly connected. If I think about the global part of it is, the other part of the challenge is that because you're not working with them on a day-to-day basis and you don't see them all the time, you feel this pressure to always be on camera, right? Or just be on, right? Like, we're in a society today where we're always on with social media and everything else. But as far as staying connected within the agency, it is easy, but it can get exhausting in that still work at home environment. So I find that to be the biggest challenge. It's great because we have all the technology to do it, but you have to draw the line on how on you want to be and how on you have to be. But in general, besides the time zones, it's really easy to stay connected. It's challenge for burnout. I think we heard it, right? Wasn't there like Zoom burnout or whatever it was?
Absolutely.
So I think for me that's what it is, because we're not doing so much face-to-face time. And I love people. I love talking, conversations, and I miss part of that, being in the office all the time.
It's a different feeling. Like I mean, like Transatlantic was born like on Zoom. Now
right.
we're doing like here like in person. But also I think that, you probably know this, like, timing is different, like silence is different.
Right.
Like somehow you can't stand silence when you are like on Teams, on Zoom, right? There is
No.
a silence and it's
No.
literally like painful.
Yeah. Right.
Someone needs to say something, right? Or like, thumbnails. Oh, they
Right.
drive
Oh my
me
God.
crazy.
I know, and
I know that
I
know
don't
that
like
you
looking at
have the
myself.
right to not show your face, but when you don't show your face and there is just this voice behind the thumbnail, it
Right?
kills me.
And it's either that little silly thumbnail or it's the initials, and you're like,
Yeah.
I'm still here, guys. But yeah, it can be exhausting. But
right.
like, I do believe we're a global world now. Like, we're connected. And I
Right.
think, I've learned that through some of this judging, and that's what I love about judging too, is meeting the people. So it's
Right.
there's lots of different ways to stay connected.
It's awesome.
And in advertising, I think we have to do that.
So listen, in 1992, a cargo ship container tumbled into the North Pacific, dumping 28,000 rubber ducks
Oh.
and other bath toys. The ocean currents took them on a long journey around the globe. 13 years later, the journalist Donovan Hahn undertook a mission. He wanted to track this movement of this duck. It's like, what happened to the duck, right? He found out that some of the ducks made their way to the coast of the Gore Point in Alaska,
Wow.
one of the most remote places on Earth. Now, this event proves a simple fact. Our actions comes with a ripple effect, right? And the ripple effect make your action travel faster than your intentions. You sit at the helm of Dentsu Health. So I believe your action as a COCO, they travel faster. What kind of responsibility do you have in your hands? And what kind of ripple effect the wrong decision can actually provoke in your case, in your position?
I'm still thinking about the duck that's like
That's
somewhere
crazy,
in the
right?
It's that's
These ducks,
bizarre. That's,
13 years
I know.
later, show up in Alaska.
I know, that's crazy. That's crazy. So responsibility. Ultimately, I'm responsible for the creative output,
Right.
for the work, which means I'm ultimately responsible for the team that I hire, right? And we're growing and we're building
Right.
a team. So that's going to be super important. So you need to build a team that, of dreamers, storytellers, producers, filmmakers, whatever, be it. And you need to give them a platform for them to be creative and exercise, the right to be creative. And I think, that's where maybe the ripple effect comes in. When I think about the team, if you hire a great team that's always going to help to push our industry further than it's ever gone before, never give up, keep going, the ripple effect is that you are going to have great work. And then if you do great work in healthcare advertising or pharmaceutical advertising, you have the power to change lives. That's the ripple effect, right? So ultimately, we're doing these great programs and this great work, but on the other end of that, you are truly transforming lives, and you're moving audiences in new directions and offering them new technologies to better their lives. So to me, I feel like we have to make sure that our creative teams have the great platforms. You have a good platform, that ripple effect is they're going to do great work in this industry.
So your creative team is the rubber ducks.
Ah, there you go.
There we go, right?
I got a lot of
because
rubber ducks.
like you got a lot of rubber ducks all over the place,
yes,
right?
Yes, that's right.
Actually, right, because like you throw into the ocean and like you make them an environment like with the current, and like that 13 years later they show up in Alaska.
I love it. The agency's moving.
Okay, look, like here's another question, and this is actually a London International Awards question we ask to all our guests.
Okay.
Now you are here, you're judging like some of the work, and you are in the farm like category. And you're gonna be here until Sunday, and then eventually you're gonna fly back like to Philadelphia, right?
Yes.
To Philadelphia. Now you have a carry-on and you have a luggage.
Okay.
I'm gonna ask you to pick 2 memories
Okay.
from this trip and put them, one in your carry-on and one in your luggage. Which one goes where and why?
Okay. Carry on. So I'm on the plane. I'm going to take all the great work that I saw on the plane, the carry-on, because I think I can like reflect all that great work.
Right.
It gives me a lot of stuff to do on my carry-on. It keeps me hungry, humble, curious, and I saw a lot of great work so far. Tomorrow is medal day, so it's going to be interesting to see where that all plays out. So I think I would take the memory of some of the work with me.
Right.
I think that's fair, right?
It is fair,
That's on
and
the carry-on?
absolutely, it's so fair.
Gives me stuff
I
to
had
look
to
at.
tell you a secret. Like when I was penning this question for Leah, I thought, okay, you know why I want to give you like a carry-on and a luggage? And maybe because my knowledge about this is tainted because I was born and raised in Rome, and like whenever you fly to Fiumicino, it's a mess. Nobody can lose your carry-on,
That's right. It's always
but people
with you.
can lose your luggage.
Oh, that's true.
So
wait, so my answer
now
for
I give you a
luggage-
hint. I don't want to give you
See,
this
I could
hint,
go-
but that was like, so like, your most precious memory should go on your like, carry on. But don't say this to your other judges and the other
let's
ocean.
see. Well, let's see. I'll answer luggage
Right.
because I think
Because there is that risk, the luggage as there is to be lost. There is always a chance
Yeah.
that you can lose someone can
See,
lose your
so-
luggage.
So I'm thinking of luggage a little differently, right?
Okay.
So the answer for me for luggage would be I would put the people I met in the luggage, although that makes me sound like a serial killer.
They can be lost.
So I just put all these people in my luggage, and now they're lost, and they're maybe in the ocean. And I'm a serial killer. Well, no, because
I think you were on the right path though, because I think like actually no, like there is no right or wrong, but I love your answer because the work that you saw and you're bringing with you is probably the most precious things that you can bring with you, right?
Yeah.
And like you don't want to lose that, and you probably put that in your carry-on.
Yeah.
So it makes a lot of sense. I love because my mind didn't go there like with the work like you probably see, but you probably have a lot of memories for this.
Oh, yeah, and you know what? This, like I just said in
Right.
my last answer, some of this work profoundly changes you, and it changes your views.
See, that's
There's
good.
been laws changed in the work
Right.
that we do, and when laws are changed and can make life better for someone, that's
Right.
amazing, or technology. So the work, I love keeping it close. And I think it helps us as creative leaders because we learn from it, we grow from it, we make it better. And I mean, but at the same time, like I told you, I love coming here because I love talking with the people. So laughing out loud, putting people on my luggage. But like luggage to me, you can get lost, but it also represents movement around the globe,
Right.
right? And luggage also, I can look at and think about all those great memories.
Right.
And you asked what memories, right? And I have such great memories of amazing, inspiring people that I've met here and I've met before. And I think, luggage, travel and fundamentally can change you,
Awesome.
right?
Colette, Coco.
Coco.
You like Coco or Colette?
Coco.
Coco. Coco Chanel. How can you go wrong with that?
Yes, no.
Liz, thank you so much for letting me
Thank
cross
you.
your ocean.
This was
and I hope
wonderful.
all the best to you
Yes.
and travel safe.
Yes.
Okay?
And I'm
Thank
going to
you.
fly across the ocean.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Yes,